Hi, I'm Frank Rohwer. I'm President and Chief Scientist for Delta. We just had a great hunt in Manitoba. It's November, and we got a bunch of Drake Mallards, and I thought it'd be a great opportunity to talk about aging ducks. How do we determine the age? Now, let me first point out, we're only going to determine the age into two categories. Hatched this year, a juvenile, or an older bird hatched at least last year and maybe 5 years ago. That's all we can do in the duck world. If you get a bird in November that's way behind in the molt, right? He's getting the green head, but he doesn't have it yet. We know that's a juvenile, that's easy. But after that, it becomes much harder. For all waterfowl, we have a great technique in the tail. We can look at tails and determine age, but only for part of the fall. So let's zoom in and look at some tails. Let's take this big mallard that a lot of people have said, oh, it's an adult. Take a look at this tail. What you see is that feather, and that feather are clearly juvenile tail feathers. They are notched. I'm going to pull one out. I'm going to pull two feathers out, these two that are right next to one another. And we're going to talk about what we see, all right? Now, here's what happens. A duckling is hatched with down, but the down is quickly replaced by feathers. This feather grew out of the feather follicle that had the down in it, and the down snapped off right at the end. And you see that little notch? You see that notch in the end? That indicates that the down feather snapped off. You can also just look at the feather quality. It's got these lines that are called fault bars. It's a skunky looking feather compared to that one, right? Down grew in first, lost it early, had it only 2 or 3 weeks. Juvenile feather grew in, okay? Kept this from, let's say, June until November, and then in October, this feather replaced one of these and grew in and doesn't have a notch. So as soon as this juvenile loses all these feathers, we can't look at the tail and know that it's a juvenile. We have to use another technique. But this tail notch thing works on all ducks, but it only works for part of the fall. All right, let's take a look at feet, because in Drake Mallards, feet are actually pretty telling, and a lot of hunters get this one right, kind of right, all right? Let's turn these guys over and look at the feet. Now this is fun. All right, so let's compare these 3 ducks. Obvious juvenile, right, just based on his lack of green head in November. This one's an adult because he's got the big red feet. This is our juvenile that was probably hatched a lot earlier in the spring than this guy, and he's got more red feet, but not as red as this adult, okay? We know he's a juvenile because he's got the notched, the skunky tail feather. But this technique works pretty doggone well for mallards, but wait a minute, only Drake Mallards. Foot color in females doesn't mean anything. In females, we would look at bill color and spots.